Hey everybody, Michael Snyder, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today is October 9th, and right now we are looking at the combination of Doppler radars across the Pacific Northwest. You can see the precipitation moving up across Oregon, portions of western Washington into western BC, and this upper level low spawning this precipitation will be with us for a couple of days, multiple rounds of precipitation before another storm kicks it off and then drops its own batch of cold air here off our coastal waters. And we'll dive into those details here as we go through the video this morning. So taking a look here at the infrared satellite imagery, you can clearly see why the precipitation is being spawned with our cold air out over the coastal waters. Slight chance for a thunderstorm the next couple of days, but it's not going to be a widespread lightning event. And then we've got that next system. It's going to bring some colder air across the region as we go on into the end of the weekend. And if you want a nice affordable home weather station, click on the link down below to save 10% off. Great station, all solar powered, no moving parts, easy to install. Get one before our weather starts to really get wild as we go on in towards the winter months. Now, taking a look here across the northern hemisphere, 300 millibars, 30,000 feet up. This is in the land of jet streams. Hawaiian Islands to the bottom left. There's the Pacific Northwest, bottom center. It's kind of hard to see on this map. And there's the North Pole. There's Greenland right there. But if I put this into motion, you can kind of see what's going on. The boundary of that warmer air across the equatorial regions versus the colder air up across the northern hemisphere. And as we get off into the fall and the winter months, this cold becomes more extensive, pushes further south, and the jet stream, and in turn the storm track pushes further south towards the west coast of North America. And you can also kind of see what's going on with our closed low right there. Look at that. It's just completely decoupled from that polar jet stream. But then as we go on in towards the end of the weekend here, this system gets kicked out and the next system starts to carve itself out over the west coast of North America as well. Now, taking a look at something similar here, but at 18,000 feet, there's our trough we're dealing with right now. That's what's bringing our precipitation for the next couple of days. And then we scroll off in towards this weekend, and the next batch of cold air arrives right there. You can see it carved out as this ridge really extends back across the Gulf of Alaska and brings this northeast flow back down across the Pacific Northwest for some chilly weather and perhaps some mountain snows. So the European ensemble mean pretty good agreement, just kind of driving home the point there as we go on in through this weekend. That next system is indeed coming here. The exact track that's been changing a little bit over the last couple of days, and I'll show you what we can expect on that here more in a moment. But if we take a look at 500 millibars, 18,000 feet, you can just kind of see how this thing is just on its own. It's lost its steering mechanism. That's why it kind of sits there and does the funky chicken over the next couple of days. Then this next trough comes through, picks it up, kicks it off to the east, but it also drops its own batch of cold air right down across the Pacific Northwest and sets up shop here right across the west coast of North America as we go through the early to mid portion of next week. So again, at 250 millibars now, 34,000 feet, you can really see that closed low. And that's why we call it a closed low here, because again, you can see the jet stream just absolutely circles itself, the polar jet further off to the north. Then the next trough kind of grabs it, kicks it off to the east, and then carves out its own trough as we go on in towards the early portion of next week. Look at that jet stream just all the way out of the northeast across the western portion of Canada and dives down off our coastline. Now, precipitation and timing of this, you can see this continue through the day today. And the next round comes up across the Willamette Valley as we go through this afternoon. You can't rule out an embedded lightning strike with that activity as we go through tonight. And then another round comes up across western Washington as we go through the day tomorrow. Looks like it might clear out just before the Mariners game starts, but I guess it doesn't matter either way. There is a roof on the stadium. But then you can see the precipitation continue, and then the colder system arrives. You can see it start to kick off some precipitation in the form of snow across some of the higher terrain as we go through maybe as early as Saturday night, Sunday morning. Then you go on in through the day Sunday and Sunday night. You see another round of precipitation in the form of snow for some of the higher terrain as that system drops down the coastline. And finally, that precipitation starts to get out of the region as we go on in through the early portion of next week. Now, looking at total precipitation here. This is about halfway through, somewhere near the mean there in the ensemble members, but this kind of gives you an idea of what we can expect as we move through this week and shows Seattle up towards, what, 2/3 of an inch, maybe a little bit more across some of the Willamette Valley and the Oregon Cascades, Washington Cascades as well. And again, some of this will be coming in the form of snowfall. I'll show you some of those totals here in a moment, so don't leave just yet. Now, if we take a look at the European You can see it does kick off some potential for Western Washington as we go through the day on Friday. Some lightning potential does arrive, and it continues to show some of this potential convection here across eastern Oregon, eastern Washington as we go through very late Thursday night and on in through Friday mornings. That pivots across the region. So yeah, not a widespread event here, at least west of the Cascades. Maybe a little bit better chance of what the European showing is correct as we go through the day on Friday. Now, total snowfall, 10-to-1 ratio, 50th percentile in the European ensemble. So I'll scroll through here, and you kind of see this really start to pile up as we go through the day on Sunday. So it might start as early as Saturday night, and then you can kind of see that pile up. It does show a little bit there for Snoqualmie Pass. Better amounts for Stevens Pass. Of course, that is a higher pass. Rainy Pass getting some snowfall out there as well. And yeah, you can see our first fairly significant snowfall for some of the higher terrain as we move out towards Tuesday night. Now, more importantly, how much of this is going to stick on the ground? Well, if you look at the European, you can kind of see that snow depth. It shows maybe an inch getting on the ground there at Snoqualmie Pass, maybe 2 inches there or something for Stevens Pass. So it could get a little bit treacherous at times. And it might be, you kind of want to err on the side of caution here. You don't want to just go driving across these passes and just think there's not going to be any snow at all. Most likely it's not going to be something that Snoqualmie Pass, the snowplow is going to go across that and really just kind of clear anything that does stick pretty quickly. So it should not be too high an impact. Maybe a little bit more impact there at Stevens Pass. And we scroll on in towards the early portion of next week, and then Snoqualmie Passes doesn't show anything at all as that snow is going to melt some. And accumulated positive snow depth change in inches. This is something similar. You can kind of see it. It shows like a half an inch for a Snoqualmie Pass, but just be prepared for that if you're out and about, and especially if you're across some of the higher terrain, hiking, camping, Pacific Coast trail goers. Be careful because it's going to cool down quite a bit as we go through this weekend. And you can really see this. Look at this Mount Hood temperature profile. This is 10,000 feet at the top, and this is the surface. You can really see how these chilly temperatures start moving in as we go through the weekend, and then on the day Sunday, pretty chilly there across the higher terrain. Similar there for Paradise, Mount Rainier, and this is Seattle, Tacoma. You can kind of see that colder air aloft arriving as we go through the end of the weekend. And Paradise, again, showing some snowfall out there, so be prepared for that. A lot of people still heading off into the Mount Rainier National Park at this time of year, and there's Stevens Pass also, again, maybe a couple inches. Snoqualmie Pass even less than Stevens Pass because it is a lower pass. Now, looking at the artificial intelligence versus the GFS, let's see what the models are showing. Well, pretty good model agreement. Then the next system arrives as we go to the early portion of next week. And then after that, what happens? Well, it looks like the GFS actually has another little bit of a shot of cooler air coming towards us. And then we go through the extended forecast and you kind of see how things start to diverge massively. The artificial intelligence has another system. The GFS has a ridge. So not gaining much information from that. So we're not going to worry too much about it. But if we look at the precipitation here, you can see pretty good agreement on where this precipitation is occurring. And the artificial intelligence kind of bullseyed some of the South Washington Cascades and Oregon Cascades. As a system, really, that next system gets developed out over our coastal area here as we go through next week. So apparent temperature as well. This is kind of interesting. And we scroll through the day today, you can see how we warm up across the region. Look at eastern Washington, the upper 70s out there. This takes into account wind chill temperature. Then we go on through the day. Friday, Mariners game probably somewhere in the upper 50s or so by the time the game starts. And you see some warmer conditions east of the mountains. But watch what happens as we go through the weekend coming up here. As we go through Saturday and we go on in through Saturday night. Look at some of these temperatures across the higher terrain. Pretty darn right chilly. Some low 20s showing up. And by the time we get towards Sunday morning, look at Seattle 44, Portland mid 40s also. And then we go on in through Sunday morning and check this out. Seattle 41 degrees it's going to feel like. So you're definitely going to feel the chill in the atmosphere with this colder air mass arriving. And 6 to 10 day below normal for the West Coast. We'll see how that turns out. Take that with a grain of salt. They got the mixed bag there as well. And also, if you want to throw some of your hard-earned money the way of the channel, the Patreon page is probably the best way to do it. It allows creators to keep, somewhere between like 85 to 90% of what you donate. Better than some other ways to do that. So yeah, I highly recommend doing it via Patreon. But yeah, anyways, we'll break this down all again tomorrow, and I may later do maybe a Seattle Mariners weather video. I don't know if I'm going to actually do that or not because it doesn't look like high impact, and there is a roof on the stadium. But yeah, we'll see about that. No promises with that. And actually thinking about it now, I might not do it. But anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Otherwise, yeah, we'll do this all again tomorrow, and I'll talk to you guys then.